Story 1. Within earshot of me, my uncle told his son, "Whatever you do, don't turn out like accomplished ice." Story 2. My mom made me look up adoption agency phone numbers in the phone book when I was 5 or 6 because I didn't smile the way she wanted in Christmas photos. She said no child of hers was going to be so disrespectful and embarrassing. I am 38, and this replays in my head every single day. Story 3. I have blocked out those memories, and I am trying to remember. I grew up with a father who was relentless both mentally and physically. He placed my mother in a mental hospital due to years of mental abuse. He has passed away, and my mother is better now. I try not to dwell on those days. Story 4. I was told at 15 that by 16 I would be pregnant, living in a trailer park, addicted to meth, and considered a worthless shell of a human. This was said by the loving father who took me in at 3. Story 5. I got 2. I was talking to this girl, and we exchanged intimate pictures. After our second date, we were making out, and she ended up sticking her hand down my pants. After touching me, she said, "I thought it would be bigger." I was dating this girl recently, and we got into an argument. I don't remember exactly how the conversation went, but I said, "Everybody just wants to find their soulmate." And she said straight to my face, "I found my soulmate years ago. Did you really think you were my soulmate?" Story 6. I had been up all night with painful contractions, and my partner had slept through. I tried to wake him at 6:30 a.m., telling him how painful it was and asking for a back rub. He said, "Not now, woman," and rolled over. It was the beginning of the end. Story 7. We never listen when you talk because you never have anything interesting to say. This was said to me in high school by 2 people I thought were my friends. It stuck with me for many years. I stopped talking around others and kept everything to myself. I maintained a distance from everyone. I still behave this way as an adult, but now I enjoy being alone. Less drama, more peace. Story 8. When I was 6, my father locked me out of his house, told me he did not want to be my father anymore, and called my mother to come pick me up. Story 9. When my sister told me she wished the nurse had not saved me when I was resuscitated at birth. Story 10. While having dinner with my family, my sister expressed that she really wanted a laptop to play Sims. My mom looked at her and said, "And let you turn out like your sister? No, I won't make that mistake again." I asked, "What's that supposed to mean?" "Well, you chose gaming over studies, and now look at you. You work at a grocery store." I don't want that to happen with her. It absolutely shattered me. Story 11. You don't like brown individuals, do you? This was actually said to me after I had been working alongside them for decades. I never had a problem before. I do now. Big time. Story 12. This person I used to work with years ago said, "You aren't a man if you have not had children." He is completely insensitive. Story 13. When I was about 12 years old, I tried to hug my older cousin, who was 24, at an NFL game we attended. I told him I loved him, and he pushed me away, telling me to stop with the inappropriate behavior. Story 14. When I met my mom for the first time, she told me I was broken. I had a lot of issues due to the abuse I experienced from my stepmom, but hearing her say I was broken was unexpected. It made me feel abnormal and less than others. It was a strange comment. Story 15. I've been asked many times throughout my life if I have friends. I do, though not many. I'm just not as extroverted as most people. It really stings. Story 16. My brother was best friends with our neighbor before he moved away. I always disliked her but was forced to spend time with her when he brought her along. She and I both smoked marijuana, so we would just get high, which made her bearable. Anyway, my brother moved away, and I was stuck spending time with her alone every now and then. We were smoking when I made a random comment about not being allowed to use the restroom after meals at my other brother's place because he thought I was purging. However, what she didn't know was that I was actually struggling with anorexia and bulimia at that point. She looked at me with an evil, knowing smile and said, "If you feel good when you're throwing up and not eating, then no one can tell you to stop. It's your body and your choice. Keep going if it feels good." I didn't hang out with her anymore. Story 17. I was feeling suicidal at the time, trying to resolve something beyond my means, and failing. My partner told me I should just go ahead and do it. Story 18. You're a creep. Please stay away from me and my friends. Now it repeats in my head many times every day. Story 19. I hope that if you ever find happiness and success in your life, you will have someone to share it with. I hope everyone you know is alive by then. Story 20. This just happened recently. My abusive ex reached out to me after reading my comments on my old account and told me I deserved all the miscarriages I've been having because I would probably be a terrible mother. That was wonderful. Story 21. My parents divorced and my mom started to party and date. One day, she decided not to admit she has a daughter. She then told me not to call her mom in front of her friends. One day, my friend ran into her and said hello. My mom then asked me to tell my friend not to address her again in public. Story 22. Words can cut deep. Sometimes it's the quiet, dismissive ones like, "You are a disappointment," that stick the longest. Story 23. I don't know why you even try. In regard to a very challenging job where I fought imposter syndrome daily, I had given everything I had. The pure rage that hit me felt like blackout rage. I am so glad he no longer has that power over me. Story 24. That I would make a terrible mother, according to my ex. Additionally, a friend of the person who exploited me blamed me for their death due to cancer. Story 25. My father once told me, and I'm paraphrasing because it was a long time ago when I was quite young, "I wish you would just leave me alone so I can live my life." I wondered back then, why bring me into the world? Now that I am older, I feel tired. Life has been difficult, and every day I wish I had never been born. Story 26. The teacher told the entire class that I should end my life. My parents and siblings expressed similar sentiments more than once. Someone else said, "If I had your life, I would have ended my life by now." It was painful when a firefighter told me, "Meeting you made me feel better about my life. I realized I have it much better than I thought, and my problems aren't really problems. I'm glad we met because I have a new perspective now." Story 27. I told my family therapist that my parents joke about loving my dog more than me. They say hello to her but not to me, and they talk to her but not to me. He laughed and said that's because the dog can't talk. I was nonverbal until around 10, and it took me a long time to learn how to advocate for myself against these individuals. The person who was supposed to help me get my life together agreed with my parents that I should have stayed nonverbal. I don't talk anymore. I haven't for years. Story 28. Everyone needs to be careful with what they say to others. You never know what others are going through in their lives. They will never forget the hurtful things said to them. I'm sorry for each of you who have faced these nasty comments. You matter more than you realize. Story 29. When my father told us that we 5 brothers would be sent to different foster homes and would never see each other again. Story 30. After I told my mom I had tried to end my life, she said I should have tried harder. She was intoxicated and has no memory of this. Story 31. Not directly to me, I guess, but when I was in high school, I had terrible allergies. I had dark bags under my eyes and felt miserable all the time. One of my teachers didn't realize I was within earshot and made fun of me in front of other students. He apologized, but the damage was done. Story 32. In high school, a girl who disliked me for no reason, and who might have had a secret crush on me, told me, "You will remain ugly, undateable, and alone for the rest of your life." Ugly? Maybe. Undateable? Sometimes, I guess. Alone? Not at all. You got that wrong, Bethany. Story 33. That I am a defective sperm who is clearly and obviously a lower category of human being than even the lowest and most useless individuals in society. Story 34. Everything my ex said to me on the night he left me for another girl was pretty brutal and extremely cruel. Story 35. Your rear looks like jello. It is not the worst thing anyone has ever said to me, but this was said by a complete stranger with so much hatred in his voice. It was chilling. Story 36. When I was 14, I found out I was pregnant. I had never met the boy, and I did not feel any responsibility toward him as he was adopted by his aunt. I never really cared to know him, although I am curious about how he has turned out. Now, at 44, I reflect on that moment. Shortly after I posted this, I remembered the moment my mom called to tell me that my dad had died. Story 37. That my son would be born addicted to drugs and I probably didn't know who the father was. Thank you, residents of Fayetteville. The joke is on them. I never used drugs. I had standards with my substance use. I was also sober. Story 38. Two things stuck with me from people I cared for deeply. You have one of those faces that makes you want to punch it. You have ruined yourself. Story 39. I was out of town visiting a married couple I am friends with. She was pregnant at the time, and her husband didn't care much for me. We were in a group and everyone split off, leaving just him and me. He said, "Ah, don't leave me alone with f." I laughed it off and replied, "Yeah, I wouldn't want to be stuck with me either." We talked for a bit, and then, out of the blue, he asked me, "What happened to you?" For context, to this day I believe he asked this because he thought of me as a troubled person, and this was heavily implied with his question. He didn't want his child to turn out like me. I laughed it off again and said something like, "Haha, the doctors are still trying to figure that out." But when he said it, it was devastating, and I felt like bursting into tears. 10 years have passed, and I still think about it from time to time. Story 40. You are not going anywhere, said my brother in response to, "I can't wait to get out of here. What a wonderful family I have." Story 41. You are mentally ill. You will never live on your own. You will never hold down a job. You will never be independent in any way. You will likely be institutionalized. At age 15, I faced challenges due to poorly treated major depressive disorder, severe anorexia, and self-harm. The joke is on them. I am well into recovery, have lived independently since I was 19, and have been a registered nurse since I was 24. I put myself through college, maintain healthy and stable relationships, and I am now 42 years old. Story 42. I have a few chronic illnesses. Despite that, in my early 20s I worked as hard as I could, but I had bad days like most people with chronic illness do. I was a shift lead at Starbucks around 24 or 25 at the time, and now I am 31, so this was a while ago. I was experiencing a severe pain flare and had just gone no contact with my mom, which made it a rough week. I was trying to work toward managing my own store. My boss at the time told me I was too inconsistent for that. Anyone with an invisible illness or mental illness knows how deeply this cuts. I still think about that. I found a new job a few months later, making more money and doing something I really enjoyed. I ran into that boss about a year later while I was running errands, and she wouldn't even look at me. I'm glad things didn't work out with Starbucks, but that comment lingers every time I have a bad day or a day when I am not as physically active as I would like to be. Story 43. Two significant moments from my mother during my teenage years stand out. Get behind me, Satan, after she slapped me for reading a Bible verse she didn't like, and are you going to cut off your breasts and have a prosthetic attached? When she discovered I am transgender. The last time we saw each other was in 2022, and the next time I will willingly share a room with her will be at her funeral. Story 44. Oh, I have something new to share. I was let go from my serving job last week, and the manager told me that when I'm in the building, it's like the whole restaurant is shrouded in negativity. And not too long ago, in 6th grade, my two best friends came over to tell me they could no longer be friends with me because they felt I wasn't cool. Story 45. Calling me names when I asked him where the money he owed me was, and yet my mom somehow thought he was just misunderstood. I am still traumatized from being with him. Story 46. My boyfriend told me he cannot support me when I informed him that I have cancer. I have known him for a total of 11 years, and we continued to date for several months afterward. I have no good reason for this. Story 47. My mom would tell me almost every day on my way to school that I should not speak to my father and sister, that they are not good people. She warned me that if I spoke to them or showed them any love, I would be entering hell with them. My mother never liked her family. Story 48. My mom and I were in the car when I was about 8 years old. I kept saying, "I love you, Mom," and apparently that annoyed her. Instead of saying, "Thank you," or "I know," she said, "You know, the more you say it, the less it means," in a very annoyed tone. I haven't said it since. Story 49. You make everyone else's life harder, my mom's boyfriend said when I was 15 and asked him to drive me to the shelter to look for my cat who had disappeared. Story 50. I have experiences from each of the 2 high schools I attended. 1. Oh, is my name still upset? From the school guidance counselor who wanted to give me in-school suspension or even out-of-school suspension because I was a distraction to other students due to mental health issues. Nobody even noticed you were gone or that you ran away. From the person who assaulted me in the school library during class. After I ran out and flipped over a chair, I had to return because someone came looking for me. Story 51. Initially, I thought this post would be filled with jokes, but as I read through it, my heart ached. Now I am truly impressed by what the human spirit can overcome. Some people can be difficult. Story 52. You need to stop doing things for attention. If you tell people you want to end your life, they will start believing you. This was the response from my 5th grade teacher. I was an 11-year-old undiagnosed autistic girl who experienced constant meltdowns, suicidal thoughts, and relentless bullying. During one meltdown, I finally expressed to my bullies how they made me feel, and this was her response in detention. She started giving me more detentions, and every time I cried or had a meltdown, I have no idea how I got through that school year. Story 53. My dad called me gutless and stormed out of a wrestling tournament because I lost by a point to a guy I had beaten badly earlier in the week. I know many people's parents were like this, but my dad was different. He was never like that before or after, so it really stuck with me and never went away. It diminished my enjoyment of the sport almost entirely. Story 54. I am spending more time with that child because I received a second chance with them. I was about 12 when my father explained to me why he spends more time with his stepson instead of us. By now, he has admitted he always wanted to be more of a friend to us than what is typically considered a father. Story 55. When I was 13, a family member told me, "If you don't watch it, you're going to end up like the overweight neighbor kid." That destroyed me. I am 48 now and have never forgotten that. Story 56. You're a horrible, selfish narcissist, and anyone else who claims to be your friend is lying. That's why I'm your best friend. I'm the only one who could love you like this. I knew she didn't mean it. I knew she was only saying it to hurt me, but it worked anyway. It's been 5 years since we last spoke, and I still have trouble believing my real friends when they say they love me. Story 57. When I was doing our taxes and taking care of our disabled son while struggling at work, my husband was unemployed and did not help. He criticized my conversation with our accountant, and I said, "I'm just so overwhelmed right now." My husband responded, "Yeah, you and everyone else. You're not special. We are divorced now, thank God." Story 58. You are so unattractive. You should join a convent because only God could love you. This was said to me at 13 years old by my brother's former best friend. Today, I am married to a wonderful man, and we have the cutest baby. The guy who made that comment tried to contact me a year before I met my husband. Unfortunately, I still think of his words every so often and feel very insecure. As for my biological father, he told my uncle that he was glad I was overweight because it meant he wouldn't have to worry about me getting pregnant. That comment still hurts, too. Story 59. My current husband's ex-wife commented that I must be a horrible mother if my son killed himself. Her youngest daughter later developed an eating disorder and had multiple suicide attempts. Karma can be harsh. No offense to my stepdaughter, who is now competing with her mother in a display of unpleasantness. I guess you really do reap what you sow. Story 60. A state trooper said to me, "I'm not going to press charges on the man just because you want me to. He's going through some stressful times." Context. The man just murdered my daughter in a hit-and-run incident. Story 61. At my pre-employment physical in 1970, the Navy dentist informed me that I had a cavity, but we would wait to see if I returned from Vietnam to fill it. Story 62. I told my ex, who had been my best friend for a long time and with whom I still lived, that I was feeling suicidal. We had only been broken up for about a month when she said, "I don't care. I need to build a wall. This could be manipulation." I don't believe I had been manipulative during or after the breakup, but that hurt deeply. That statement affected me for a long time. Story 63. You were going to turn out overweight and unattractive, just like your mother. My dad told me when I was about 14. Then my mom called me promiscuous when I was 17 for having a relationship with someone in a situation she created. It's all fine. I met my future husband just a few months later, and we have been married for 21 years. I am healthy, beautiful, successful, and maintaining no contact with them. They want to believe they contributed to my success, but it is really despite them. Story 64. When I was a toddler, my abusive, drug-addicted father took me back home to my mother and said, "He can't be mine, he's strange," and then accused my mother of infidelity. I am a twin. Story 65. I feel like if you died, nobody would care. It was this girl with whom I was starting to become friends in an art class in high school. Literally, out of nowhere and with an innocent smile on her face. It was as if she had no idea what she just said to me. Story 66. Congratulations. It's a girl. 18 years later, I realized I am a transgender man and did not consent to live on this planet with all these presumptuous individuals, some of whom incorrectly assumed my gender. A nosy doctor also belittled me. A frightening woman confronted me when I was 15, screaming that I did not deserve respect. Enjoy the consequences of your actions. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.